Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Mason. I serve as the senior manager of Newark People's Assembly, and I am the moderator for this evening's virtual town hall. Tonight, we will be discussing lead service lines and bottled water distribution. Here at the table with me are my panel of experts, Kareem Adeem, Tom Schottel, and Jerry Noddy, excuse me. And just before, as we're dialing residents so that they can join the call and waiting for individuals to join us on Facebook Live, I'll just give you a little information about Newark People's Assembly. We are the division of the mayor's office that serves as the liaison between the community and the residents. We hope to bridge that gap in communication, and we also are trying to make City Hall more transparent as the mayor is trying to lead from the ground up and wants your voices to be heard. So at this time, I do see that quite a few people have joined us, hopefully on Facebook Live you're tuning in, as well as FiOS 28 and Alti 78. Without further ado, I'll ask my panel to introduce themselves.
Kareem Adeem, Acting Director, Department of Water and Sewer. City of Newark.
Jerry Noddy.
Mike.
Jerry Noddy, professional engineer in New Jersey, a consultant for the city, but I'm also the license operator for the Pequannock Water Treatment Plant.
And good evening. I'm Tom Schottel. I'm a Senior Vice President with the consulting engineering firm CDM Smith.
And at this time, I'm just going to ask one of the gentlemen to start with an introduction of basically why we're here and what the constituents should know.
So, good evening again. This is Kareem Adeem, Acting Director, Department of Water and Sewer. So we're here tonight to discuss recent test results that the City of Newark was testing 3 homes as we were looking at the effectiveness of our new corrosion inhibitor that we installed on May 7th, the orthophosphate. As a part of that project, in early July, we tested 3 homes to look at the filter efficiency, right, under extreme conditions. And 2 of those homes failed. One of those homes had the point of use filter, the white or black or silver filter that goes on your faucet that clicks in, and the other one was a pitcher. As a matter of caution, those 2 filters failed at the very extreme levels that we tested at. So we had water that was stagnant in homes with lead service lines. So they fell with homes that, I want to reiterate this point, that had a lead service line that we asked them to have the water stagnant between 5 and 11 hours. 5 and 11 hours. So we tested these pure water filters that we've been giving out. We've given out about 38,000 of these filters, and we tested 3 of the 38. The 2 fell and 1 passed with flying colors. So doing a matter of precaution, we're giving out bottled water as we expand the testing pool. So this doesn't represent the whole 38,000 of the filters that we've given out, or the replacement filters or the filter pitchers. It represents 3 that we tested. We're just working with the DEP, the US EPA, and Pure Filter on trying to look at what happened with the filters, right? And also expanding the sampling pool to get a better understanding of how widespread this may be with the filters. So we visited a couple of houses on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we'll be visiting houses the rest of this week and probably next week as we try to expand the protocol and get a better understanding of what happened with the filters. And we're looking at for those 14,000 homes, in the Pequannock area that have lead service lines. Not every home in the Pequannock area has a lead service line. Not every home in the Pequannock area is a filter that may or may not be working. We don't know that.
You're going to have to repeat that several times.
We don't know that. Right? It's not every home we go to in the Pequannock area that we know that a filter is working or not working. Being very transparent, right? We came out Saturday with a press conference to let everybody know, right? It's like we're aggressively doing testing.
Please start to talk.
The phone on mute. Go ahead.
So we're aggressively doing testing everywhere to find out how widespread this may be. We're closely coordinating our efforts with the NJDEP, the US EPA, and CDM Smith is who our consultant along the way. This is a very small sampling pool. I want to stress that again. It's a very small sampling pool. It was 3 houses. So of those 3 houses, you want to look at it, 66% of the 3 kind of fell for various reasons. We don't know why they fell. So we're working with CDM, US EPA, we've been working with for the last year or 2, and the NJDEP that we've been working with throughout this whole process to find out what happened with those filters and also get a better understanding of the aquatic system and what's happening. We're giving out bottled water as a precaution, and everybody don't need bottled water, only to those affected, those 14,000 homes in the aquatic service area that have a lead service line. You can go on our website, newarkleadserviceline.com, where it says bottled water. You can type in your address, look it up, and it'll tell you if you're eligible to pick up bottled water at any one of the 4 locations. The Health Department at 110 William Street, which is open from 8 to 4:30. Baldwin Street Recreation Center, which is 11 to 8 o'clock. That's at 916 South Orange Avenue. St. Peter's Recreation Center, 378 Lyons Avenue, also known as Bowes Porter Sports Complex, 11 to 8 p.m. Vince Lombardi Centers of Hope, 201 Bloomfield Avenue, is open from 11 to 8 p.m. So as a precaution, we're giving out bottled waters. For those senior citizens and those with disabilities, if you need some assistance, you can call us at 973-733-6303 so we can make arrangements to assist you in getting bottled water. And also, if you are unable to know if you qualify because you may or may not have internet or may not have access to find out, besides going to one of those distribution centers, you can call us at 6303 and we can assist you so you won't be waiting in line to find out that you're not affected.
And that's 973-733-6303.
Bottled water will be available while this is a temporary measure, while we expand the sampling pool and get more data to understand how widespread this may be. But we're still offering free testing of your children at our health department. You can walk in Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4 p.m. That's 110 William Street, or you can call 973-733-LED. 973-733-LED. You can arrange for a test. You can walk in. We're also offering free water testing. We continue to offer free water testing for anybody, whether you're affected or not. Whether you're affected or not, you can get the free water testing by calling 973-733-6303, or look for us on Newark Water, or email us at Newark Water and Sewer. One word, Newark Water and Sewer at ci.newark.nj.us. So you can email us, again, at Newark Water and Sewer at ci.newark.nj.us, or call us at 973-733-6303.
Kareem, let me stop you for a moment, and I apologize, but I realized we had some technical difficulties in the beginning, and if the panel of experts, you 3 gentlemen, wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves again for the listening audience and also for the viewers that just tuned in via Fios 28 and Altice Newark TV 78, I would appreciate it.
Okay, my name is Jerry Noddy. I serve as a consulting engineer for the City of Newark. I'm also a professional engineer and a license operator for the Pequannock Water Treatment Plant.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Schottel. I work for the company called CDM Smith. We're the City of Newark's consulting engineer on this issue, and I'm located here in Edison, New Jersey, and I'm a regional manager for the firm.
And again, I'm Kareem Medine, Acting Director of the Department of Water and Sewer at the City of Newark.
So I don't see that any questions have come over the system just yet, but I do have one question that I know that was asked of me today, if one of you gentlemen could answer it. And it was, why was there only 3 houses that were sampled?
So, a part of us monitoring our corrosion control system that we put in on May 7th, we picked 3 locations in the areas that's affected, right? That's affected the most. The West Ward, the South Ward, and the North Ward, right? To monitor how the effectiveness of the corrosion and corrode inhibitor is coming in to the beginning of the system, the middle of the system, and the farthest end of the system, right? So, and a part of that is that represents that the chemical that we see is in the distribution system. We were monitoring to see the levels that is entering the system. So we weren't looking to not do a bigger sampling pool like we're doing now. It was just a part of getting the understanding what's going on. I'll pass it to Tom Shadow if you want to put a little more.
Sure, yeah, certainly. Thanks, Kareem. The sampling was really, as the director said, was done to confirm the distribution of the chemical that was added upstream. And the purpose of that chemical is really to cause a coating to be formed on the lead service lines and effectively insulate the water from contacting the lead, which could become soluble as it contacts, particularly during the stagnant period under which these 3 homes were tested, which is really, as the director also indicated, the most extreme condition that one of these tests could be conducted under. So we selected these 3 homes for the purpose of really evaluating how well that chemical was being distributed throughout the distribution system. Not necessarily to test the filters, but the filter tests actually came up as a consequence of this testing, and of course we reported that testing immediately to our partners at the EPA and at the DEP once we had some hits above the action level. And we realized we had an issue. We discussed whether or not there was a problem with the testing protocol, and we made some adjustments. We immediately went out and began to retested the 3 homes that were affected, and then began looking at strategies for broadening the testing pool, which we're still working on. We've begun to expand that, but we still have a little further way to go. Now that we know we have a problem, we're working on what the larger sample size should be to make sure we have some statistical significance in the sample population moving forward.
I understand. Thank you. And also, you use some terminology that I understand only because I've been doing the teletown halls and going to these meetings since October or November of last year. But just for the constituents who may not know, can you just explain, one of you gentlemen explain what is a corrosion control, what is a lead service line, and what is the name of the actual corrosion control being used?
So I'd be happy to respond to that. So as you're asking what corrosion control is, corrosion control chemicals are utilized throughout the United States as a way to reduce lead in drinking water. What they do is they provide a passive coating on the inside of the pipes and keep lead from being deposited into drinking water. There are a number of sources of lead in drinking water. They do not come from the source water. I think it's really important to point that out. The regulations require that we look at our source water lead and it's non-detect in the source water. That means the water that comes into our Pequannock water treatment plant, there is no lead in that water. Water picks up lead in lead service lines, and lead service lines were used certainly around the turn of the century in many of the older cities like Newark. Lead service lines were put in because they were very malleable. That means that they were easy to bend and form into various shapes that were needed for the distribution of the water. Subsequently, through the years, they found out that lead service lines were certainly easy to work with, but they deposited lead into the drinking water. And again, this is a pervasive problem throughout the United States. It's not just in the city of Newark. It's in a lot of the older cities. You'll find it in Chicago. You'll find it in various other cities. Systematically, the DEP and the EPA are finding ways through funding and other ways to start removing lead service lines through all the older cities, because it is such a problem. As we become more familiar with the science around it, we recognize that there's certain learning disabilities that you get from ingesting lead through paint, but also through drinking water. And as those things became more and more apparent, the regulations started clamping down and started removing those lead service lines. The city of Newark really needs to be commended for its aggressiveness in getting funding and starting to remove the lead service lines in the city. As a part of that program, not just removing it, there's a corrosion inhibitor that, if applied to the drinking water, the one that the city is using is something called zinc orthophosphate. It's used throughout the country effectively. It starts putting a passive layer on the inside of the pipes, even the lead service lines, frankly, and it stops the lead from leaching into the water. The cities could be commended in consort with CDM in designing and implementing and getting a new corrosion control system online in record time. Frankly, it went online. Kareem, what was the date on that?
May 7th.
May 7th. I've been in this industry for 35 years, and kudos to CDM Smith and this administration for getting it together that quickly. Inside of, I think, 90 days, they went from inception to design, construction, installation, and implementation. That's how serious the city is about getting a corrosion inhibitor that's going to be effective out into the system. And frankly, we're starting to see some returns on that corrosion control system. Just a notice to all the individuals out there, use your water. Flushing's really important, things like flushing your toilets, washing your clothes. Keep that water moving through your household system, because that's what gets the corrosion inhibitor throughout the system and starts pacivating, as we call it, those pipes, or getting a coating on that for that protection. Some of the preliminary numbers we're seeing on that is we're starting to see those numbers dropping. Now, they're still somewhat elevated, and it's going to take till the end of the year for us to get where we want to go with this. But we're encouraged by the results, and history bears out throughout the country that orthophosphate is effective in doing this. This particular incident, and I'll toss this conversation over to Tom Schottel on this, but this particular situation has been pointed out was really a worst case scenario. We're looking at some of the older lead services, a long detention time in those pipes, or where it wasn't used. And frankly, we knew we were going to get some elevated levels. What we didn't know is that the filters have a capacity issue, where on some of those higher levels, they weren't removing as much as we thought they would. Now we're aggressively working with the filter company and using all our expertise to find a way to improve on that system. So as a major precautionary measure, the city said, let's get out some bottled water to our residents to make sure that while we solve this, they're protected.
Yeah, and I think, Jerry, you covered it very well from the basic engineering, water chemistry side of it, but just to reiterate some of the points with respect to how the city has responded to this issue. They initially had a three-pronged approach to this. Number one was to do a corrosion study, understand what was going on in the system after they had some initial hits of lead in the system back in 2017. Very aggressively pursued that corrosion control study, which CDM Smith performed on behalf of the city. As soon as there was a hint of a problem, we looked into designing the temporary zinc orthophosphate system, which we got up and running very quickly. The city also embarked on a very aggressive program to replace lead service lines, so that's a second prong of that approach. And now, while that was going on, also adding filters in the homes. They distributed 40,000 filters. So there were initially a three-pronged approach, and as soon as there was a hint of any, even with a small data set that we had, immediately went into a very of an abundance of caution, an approach that involved the temporary distribution of water, because we don't really know what's going on. So we are going to expand the sample pool, as I said before. So now we've added a fourth prong to the city's overall response, And I've been in the industry almost as long as Jerry, maybe a year or two less. And I can tell you, the cities, by far and away of the clients we've been dealing with has been right in the forefront of their response to how they're dealing with this problem. So they're to be commended, Director Adim and the Mayor's administration.
Thank you for acknowledging the city and the administration's attempt to be more proactive rather than reactive. Do appreciate that. And the reason why we are having this teletown hall is because the community has a bunch of questions. So we encourage the community to log on to Facebook to send in a question. You can also dial in to ask a question directly to us. That dial-in number is area code 855-756-7520, extension 50029 #. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, have a comment about what's being discussed, which is the lead service lines and the bottled water distribution, you can ask your question via Facebook and tune in on Facebook Live, as well as call in to 855-756-7520, extension 50029 #. So there are a few questions that came in thus far, gentlemen. And the first question comes from Jackie. And I believe this was a phone question. Some lines on my street were replaced and I signed up. When will our lines be replaced?
So currently, the city rolled out their groundbreaking on Phase 1 on March the 13th of this year. That was Phase 1. We had 1,500 homes that signed up in late 2018 into early 2019, and we started construction on Phase 1. If you're in Phase 1 and they're on your block, they're probably going to get you. If you haven't signed up, you need to sign up for the program. First, you need to be signed up and enrolled in the program. And you can sign up at NewarkLeadServiceLine.com. So everyone out there that has a lead service line, that if you've seen my staff or my crew, we're doing mailings, coming door to door, we want you to sign up. We've been doing these town halls for a little over a year now, and these teletown halls, and we send out mass mailings, I think, every other month, just updating you on what's going on. You need to sign up for the NewarkLeadServiceLine.com to make sure you signed up. If you signed up and you're not sure what phase you're in, you can call us at 973-733-6303, and just to confirm that we received your application. Also, if you go on NewarkLeadServiceLine.com and you signed up, you can send a question and verify that you signed up right there. It's another way that we can answer your question. Phase 2, we just received bids back about 2 weeks ago. We're reviewing those bids to award them. It's another 1,500 lead service lines that we're looking to start maybe late September, early October, right? We've been saying that in previous town hall meetings, it'll be late third quarter, early fourth quarter. So we look like we're on track for that. I just want to say, so if you're not in Phase 1 and you're in Phase 2, we're starting maybe late third quarter, early fourth quarter. And if you're not, please sign up for to have your service line replaced at NewarkLeadServiceLines.com.
So just a follow-up question. So everyone that has signed up has already been notified, or were you only notified if you were in Phase 1, and then if you're in Phase 2, you'll be notified within the next couple months?
So if you're in Phase 1, you were notified that we're going to actually, that you were accepted, we're going to actually start construction. You're in Phase 1, I mean, your service is going to be replaced in that phase of the project.
Okay.
Right? The other thing you're asking, if I sent in the application,
Yes.
and you want to know if it was accepted. So 9 times out of 10, we do send you something that says you were accepted, we received your application.
Okay.
Now, when Phase 2 starts, we'll send you something else saying you're in Phase 2, right? So year to date, we have a little over 4,000, maybe 4,400 people that signed up to have their lead service line replaced. So Phase 2 and Phase 1 combined would only be 3,000 people that we've already received contracts to get those things moving. We're just waiting on them to get approved.
So we have enough people to even go into phase 3. We
Right.
just gotta be
We just need
patient.
more people to sign up, because in reality, phase 3, I don't think we reached the 4,500 number yet.
Yeah, and I would just add something else to that. There's an importance for, if you're neighbors, if you're intending to have your lead service line replaced and you have a neighbor who is like-minded, I would encourage you to get the group together, because it's much more efficient if we can do 10 houses on the same street than one house on this street and a house downtown as we contract these out. So it'll result in a lower cost for the city to execute this program, and it'll be much more efficient for the contractor. The disturbances will be kept to a minimal if we can get to one spot at a time. So I would encourage the residents to work at a grassroots level to try to get together in larger groups so that we can package these in a way that is efficient from the contracting perspective, and it'll save the city and the taxpayers, the ratepayers, some money.
Well, I want to, I'm glad that Tom said that. I want to commend those people on Ellery Avenue, right? And Ellery Avenue, it's like a group of them came out, and we probably replaced the most services on Ellery Avenue. Like, they signed up in groups.
Are they like a block association or
So I don't know if it
something?
was a block association or not. I know we went door to door out there, we passing out filters, but we seen that a group of Ellery Avenue from one
Kudos
end
to Ellery.
to the other end, they had the contract out there trying to replace them. And Tuxedo started following that same path.
West Ward is representing.
The South Ward represented, but I'm just encouraging people. Remember, there's 15,000 lead service lines throughout the whole city, that homeowners that we're looking to replace. We're targeting those homeowners. So everybody do need to sign up.
So what I want to do,
It's a community effort.
there's quite a few questions. So if we can answer the questions directly, and of course, there'll be a closing, and we can put all the general information toward the end. But I want to try to get to as many of the questions. Well, we'll be able to get to all the questions, I'm pretty sure. So Mikkel on Facebook asks, is it safe to take showers? I assume so, but should we take any extra precautions while showering or giving our children baths?
So I'll take that one. If you know, you can't get lead from taking a shower, right? It's not gonna, water hit your skin. You gotta inhale it or ingest it. Mainly ingesting it. Inhaling it means lead dust. I sit here with Dr. Wade. We go over this all the time, and he's telling people it's okay to shower, it's okay to brush your teeth, right? But it's you're not gonna get lead because some came in your water and they got on your skin. It has to be inhaled or
Ingested.
ingested.
But the follow-up question to that is, what if somebody has a sore? Or if they get a cut? I'm just asking because I know that's the follow-up question.
Yeah, that's not
It's
an
still
issue.
not enough.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Lead won't
Penetrate.
permeate your skin in that way. It has to be ingested.
Just wanted to clear that up for the listening and viewing audience. The next question is, what areas are affected?
So the Pequannock system is affected. I know we always,
It's over there.
we have a map over there. I'm gonna just grab it again real quick. When we talk about the Pequannock system, 'cause so the Pequannock system is right here. And the Pequannock system starts in the north, going towards Belleville, and it ends over here in the south, going into Hillside. So when we say the Pequannock system in the entire West Ward, heading into South Orange. So that's the entire West Ward. So the Pequannock systems are parts of the north.
Hold it up,
This
north.
one.
The Pequannock system is parts of the north, south, and central, in the entire west. Right? So you see the Wanacue gradient, the Pequannock gradient. So it's coming from over here, the north, central, west, south. So those are the areas that's affected.
Thank you so much. The next question is from Brenda Simpson. Are there resources for nonprofits in the targeted areas, particularly those facilitating providing child care or youth services?
Well, resources as to so daycare centers are regulated by the Department of Children and Family Services. I think they had to do some different type of inspections to test for lead and to see how you had lead services. But if it's in a larger building, we did do an inspection, I want to say in 2018, think of 100 daycare centers, And I think we only identified 2 of them that had lead service lines. And one of them was in the East Ward, and that building was since remodeled, and they replaced the lead service line. The other one, from my knowledge, it closed down.
So is it true that large buildings or complexes or structures that are over 4 families don't have lead service lines?
So I'm not going to say structures over 4 families. So large buildings. So if you live in like Hyde Park Gardens, or you live in New Community, or
Ivy
you live
Hill
in
Apartments?
Ivy Hill Apartments, or some of those buildings on Chancellor Avenue,
How about the senior buildings?
or the senior buildings. The Housing Authority conducted their own lead testing late last year, November, December, and I think they had Lewis Consulting Group working for them,
Okay.
Victor Cirillo and his group, and I did a couple of town halls for them over in some of the older units, Stephen Crane area where they had a problem. But the larger buildings, they don't have a lead service pipe. So a lead service pipe is the size of a quarter, and the biggest size is a 50-cent piece. So a larger building wouldn't be able to get a larger building like 15 Hill Street, Ivy Hill Manor, 1060 Broad. They wouldn't have a lead service line. They would have a larger pipe of a 3-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, or 12-inch diameter, made out of ductile iron, cast iron. So it wouldn't be carrying lead in that pipe.
Appreciate that answer. And
And those new housing developments like Winona Lippman or West Kenny Gardens,
what is the
they would have
year?
copper.
I know
86.
there's a year that if anything was
86.
built after it,
That's lead solder. There was a lead solder ban in 1986.
okay.
So a lot of other sources besides lead services were at lead solder joints. The plumbers used lead solder for many, many years. In 1986, that was banned. So plumbers stopped utilization. So it was 1986.
So I just want to remind everybody, in 1953, February the 10th of 1953, the city of Newark made it mandatory that if you built the new house, you had to install copper. We got away from lead. Lead was, although they started using copper in the late 30s, the early 40s, the city of Newark actually regulated that you cannot put it in a new home, or if you did an upgrade to your home in 1953, February the 10th of 1953. You had to install copper pipes.
So a few people are asking about the bottled water distribution. How many cases of water is each resident entitled to? Is it only the homeowner that can pick up the water, and or are the tenants actually able to pick up water for their apartments?
So it's actually, right now we're giving out 2 cases per unit, right? So if you live in a 3-family, the first family would get 2 cases, the first floor would get 2 cases, the second floor would get 2 cases, or the third floor would get 2 cases. There's 2 cases per unit. We don't want the landlord cannot pick it up for everyone. So we don't want everyone saying the landlord didn't give it to me. So we prefer you to come out and get it. And while you're getting that water, we can educate you on, if you qualified or why you're not qualified and what you should be doing. Like running the water. We want the orthophosphate to keep coming in. I know we hear a lot of stuff, people saying don't use the water. Yeah, you can use the water. We want you to run the water to keep the condition in the pipes.
Or how often can individuals get the cases of water?
So right now, we're giving out 2 cases weekly right now until as we expand the pool. This is a temporary measure. We're doing this as a precaution.
Yes.
Right? It's not a permanent measure. We're doing this as a precaution. One of the permanent measures we want to do is continue to replacing the lead service lines and let the orthophosphate get in.
So Cornel asks, or she states, states, my home is literally between 2 homes that has lead service line, but I'm not affected. How can I be so sure? And I know it's a newer home, but still it's now 15 years old.
So I just kind of answered that question. So if your house was built, in the 90s, in 1986, they banned all lead. Right, but the city of Newark in 1953 stopped allowing new housing developments to come up, or new housing units, February the 10th, 1953, you had to use copper. We made it mandatory that you use copper. So 15 years ago, she still has a copper service that's coming into her house. You can't hook up to an old service. Even if it was an old service that they knocked down and they built a new house on your property, you cannot hook up to it.
I'm glad
You
you
gotta put a
said
copper
that.
line down.
Because I was wondering, what if people are trying to be slick and
No, we
do
come
it-
out there and we inspect it, we verify it.
Okay, good.
Right, and some of these guys that say they PEs, they gotta seal and verify the as-bills of what they did.
Okay. All right. Mary asked, how long will the corrosion control chemical be used? I apologize. How long will the corrosion control chemical being used last?
So when you're, and we'll let Tom address this as well, but when you use a corrosion inhibitor, it's like any other chemical that's utilized within a water distribution system or within a water system. It'll be used indefinitely because you're constantly passivating the pipes, but the dosages will start dropping once you start forming that protective coating.
Yeah, I really don't have much to add to that. It's going to be used indefinitely, just like some other additives, fluoride or pH controls, or even disinfectants that are added to water. So this particular chemical that's in use now in the city of Newark is used all over the United States for the same purpose. So there's a long track record of, using this chemical for this exact purpose.
Incidentally, the Wanacue system has been using it since the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Effectively, and the water qualities are very similar, and it's been effective, and they've been using it for the last 30 or 40 years.
Well, is it true that all drinking water that comes from a reservoir or from the Pequannock or the Wanacue, it has some kind of chemical in it because we can't drink just untreated water?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Yeah, if you were to go these days, certainly many years ago, and this is what caused things like dysentery and so forth. As a matter of fact, the first water treatment facility was actually in New Jersey. And the first time I ever applied chlorine for disinfection was actually in, I think it was Jersey City. First time ever. If you drink water directly out of a reservoir, there are bacteria, viruses, Cryptosporidium, Giardia, and a multitude of microbes that can get you ill. So the effective treatment of water, and this is groundwater as well, well water, surface water, they're all treated with chlorine at a minimum. And at the Wanacue and the Pequannock water system, we chlorinate, filter the water, and we use a coagulant as well. And now we'll be using a corrosion inhibitor.
So Lisa asked, how will the water treatment work if we aren't supposed to drink or cook with the water?
You
Well,
mean in the short term?
Yeah, well, I
You wanna
think,
figure
in
that?
general, I think the largest uses of waters in the home are typically bathing, toilet flushing, and washing, laundry, doing laundry. So we can still keep the water volume moving through a particular residence with those basic uses, even with bottled water, and we would encourage those uses to continue with the water coming from the tap. So these point-of-use filters that were provided by the city, and hopefully installed correctly on all the kitchen taps, which is where I think most of them have been installed. That's really where you want to, short of the bottled water that's now being distributed as a cautionary measure, that's really what was intended for use for the cooking. So the bottled water on the short term, if residents feel comfortable, until we have more definitive sampling results, should use the bottled water, but continue to do everything else that you've been doing, the washing in particular. We want to get volume through that pipe, bring that coagulant, the zinc orthophosphate through the pipe to form that protective layer on the pipe itself and any maybe soldered joints. If you have even a newer home since 1950, but you still have some lead solder in the joints, we want to coat that solder as well with the chemical. So it'll work on the lead service line as well as the solder connections that Jerry mentioned before.
So I just want to add something, because everybody says don't use the water, how the chemicals work. We actually, these 3 tests that we conducted, the small tests were on homes that we know had lead service lines. It wasn't conducted on homes that, without a lead service line. Lead service lines is probably a 95% source of lead leaching into the water.
And
That
what
lead
does
pipe.
leaching mean?
Meaning lead is falling off or being absorbed into the water as it passed through that lead pipe.
And just to get a little bit more perspective on actually what we think took place based on, we did, the sampling was sequential, so we took a number of samples over a period of time from the same home after the water was not used for a 6-hour period. So what happened is, as the water that was trapped inside that lead service line passed through the filter, we saw a spike and a decrease. So to use an analogy that I've been using in the last couple of days, if the homeowner in that particular home woke up and the first thing they did was drink about 1.5 gallons of water directly out of the tap, there would have been a lead exposure. But as soon as that volume was flushed, it started off low, peaked, and then went right back down to a low level, and the filter was actually pretty effective. So it was effective at reducing the level below the action level. So the exposure was, in this particular instance, relatively minimal, and it would only have affected somebody if they had drank that first 1.5 gallons of water coming out of the tap. So in the morning, first thing you do, turn the shower on, wait for the water to get warm. That slug will pass through probably in most of the cases in a particular home, if it exists at all.
Okay, thank you. Kyra asks, so how long is the projected date? Or what is the projected date, or how long do you propose the use of bottled water?
So I'll take that one. Again, this is a temporary measure as we expand the pool, right? So we're aggressively going out. We've been working with US EPA, NJDEP, and CDM to get a protocol. We finally look like we probably nailed the protocol and how we're going to expand the sampling pool. So we're aggressively out here planning to expand the sampling pool, working on the numbers of how large that pool should be. So just to get you to understand what we mean by pools, currently the city tests every 6 months a minimum. We're required to test a minimum of 100 homes, right? 100 homes throughout the entire city limits. So all 5 wards. There's like 20 homes in each ward, and 20 areas, maybe five areas in each ward. And doing that, of those 20, so the last sampling period, I think we tested it like 111 or 12. We always go above and beyond. So now, we only tested 3 homes. So we got an exceedance out of 100. We had 12 that went above 15 parts per billion, right, out of 100. 110 or 100, whatever. So that's the 90th percentile. Now we're looking to make sure the sampling pool we did was 3. That doesn't represent the whole city. That doesn't even represent the regulatory lead service line sampling pool that we do twice a year, from January to June, from July to December. So this is a different pool that we're doing with the filters. We want to expand that similar, but we don't want to just pick a number out of our head, right? That's why we work with US EPA, CDM Smith, and the NJDEP to make sure we're sampling a representative number, right, in the city, in the affected area, so we can ensure that we're doing the proper type of testing and protocol, not that we're rushing things. So out of measure of precaution is why we're giving the bottled water.
Yeah, so as we look at the size of that pool, it's a very diverse population. You know, we can look at it from purely a numbers standpoint. I don't think that would be doing it justice. You know, the 14,700 homes that are affected. We want to look at the geographic diversity. There are differences between the wards and the age of some of the homes. So we want to get a statistically significant sample so we can make the case that things are in fact safe and you know, will be safe. So we're still working on the exact number, but we should have an answer in the next day or so. The sampling will continue, and as we've been sampling for the last 3 or 4 days, the protocol has evolved as we've been sampling. So, and I'm hopeful that we've agreed on a protocol now with both NJDEP and the EPA that we can move forward on, and then just turn a whole bunch of people loose out there to start sampling. So if your doorbell rings at 9 o'clock and I'm standing there with a sample bottle,
Let me in.
He'll be accompanied by the city. He'll be accompanied by the city's personnel. But Tom, can you explain what protocol means? Because I know people always hear us say that, and you're constantly saying as the protocol gets approved. And
Sure.
I'm saying it, you know.
Well,
Maybe they want to hear from somebody different at time.
the protocol is basically it's the procedure by which our field technicians will go out and do a test. So I mentioned before, during the example I gave, that we took samples over a period of time. We are going to be taking samples of the water, either unfiltered or filtered, during a certain staging of flushing. So we're going to flush the lines, and we're going to take filtered and unfiltered samples during that. So we're going to probably take 500 milliliter samples. It most likely be 6 from each home as we move forward, and those will be then taken for an analysis. We'll follow a certain laboratory protocol to test the water and then provide results. So there'll be a lot of note record keeping as we take the samples. We're going to have a questionnaire to ask the homeowners how long, since the last water was used. Was there any recent plumbing modifications in the home? So there's a list of questions that our field people will be asking the homeowner to try to get some insights. When was the last time you replaced the filter cartridge in the filter? In some cases, recently today, as a matter of fact, we had a number of homes where the filters had the yellow lights blinking, and we knew as soon as we got there that the filters had exceeded their useful lives. So those are all questions intended to understand how the filters have been used, and it'll factor into how we interpret the results of the data. So the protocol is essentially the procedure that we will use to test, draw the samples, and then do the laboratory analysis.
So I just want to add something in. I don't want to hold you up. So the protocol is like what Tom said is how we'll do the test, but we really want to mimic the average use of how people really use water in the house.
Yep.
When I keep telling people, we try to explain it, and sometimes the mayor explain it better than me. These were under extreme conditions where we
Yep.
required the homeowners or the residents not to use the water between 5 and 11 hours. So we want to mimic, how you really actually use water daily in your house, is using it through the filter. The good thing is, I'm glad to hear that you've seen filters that were blinking yellow, because that means those people were using those filters.
Mhm.
'Cause we went in a couple of houses where we seen people wasn't using the filters, the light was red,
Mhm.
or they didn't even change it. So it's still important to change that cartridge
Yep.
while we're doing the test.
And the city is still providing the
We're
replacement
still providing
cartridges.
the
So
replacement.
So this is an interesting question. So I've noticed that on certain water bottles there is a best use by date. So this Claudia is asking, is it okay to drink that water if they have one of those kind of designations on it? Because some bottles say it, some bottles don't.
All right, so this is an interesting area, and it's the best way to describe this is the FDA, or the Federal Food and Drug Administration typically says that if the water bottle is closed and you don't touch it, it has an indefinite shelf life on it. Okay. What they believe happens after a year or two is there may be some cosmetic alteration to the water. That means it may not look as clear, but in the words of the FDA, it's still not a safety issue to drink. It's more of a cosmetic issue. So that answers that question.
Yes, so it's okay to drink
Yeah,
all bottled water. Yes.
that's
well,
correct.
we don't want to endorse every bottle of
No,
water.
okay.
No, we don't want to do that. And in the case of the city, if you can you respond to that?
So,
city's
the city, it was a letter that, I think, I don't have the copy of the letter, but the NJDP issued the letter today. I think they were giving it out with some of the bottled waters. People use different best use by dates, and it's sometime in shelf life to monitor how long they had the water, how long they stored the water, and they want to rotate water out. But they did issue a letter yesterday. At times I look at, we probably should have noticed that. I'll take a little blame for that. That we should give out water without a best by date, or we should be well in advance knowledgeable of what we're doing. In essence, to give out water, it did have that best use by date, but we did find out from the state that it was acceptable. But again, me, Kareem Adeem, Acting Director of Water and Sewer Department, I'll take the responsibility for that. We kind of deserve better. This is Newark. We need to, hope you can, I really want to say,
A high standard.
we're holding ourselves to a high standard. We kind of removed that water as soon as possible. Although residents came back and they still wanted the water. But we did remove it. We did issue the letter from the DEP because residents still wanted that Pacific water. Some people like that brand.
Oh my, we only have 10 minutes left, and we have like 5 questions.
Yes.
So let's go through these questions. So can you explain the up to $1,000 contribution from the homeowner regarding the lead service replacement cost?
So the lead service replacement cost. So we're going to deal with phase 1. It says up to $1,000. Because we're looking to replace 1,500 lead service lines per phase, we bid contracts out. So in doing that contract, the length of your service, how much of your service was replaced, and how much work we had to do with full restoration, repairing your sidewalk, repairing the cut that we made during the street, repairing a part of your lawn, right? Once we finish all that work of the whole phase, we'll come back, because we may have to do a little part of a service at Ms. Smith's house. We may have to do a larger service at Ms. Johnson's house, and the price may differ. Ms. Johnson may not have to pay $1,000, right? Because she had a smaller service done.
Okay.
And we did a less work there versus Ms. Smith, who we did more work. So at the end of the phase, we look at all the measurement and payment items, and we come back and say, Ms. Smith, you owe us $600. You have an installment plan. You got to pay it over 12 months. Ms. Johnson, who we did more work, may owe us $900. Ms. Terry may owe us $300. That's why we say up to $1,000. And you don't pay nothing up front. You don't have to pay nothing up front. You'll get this bill maybe, I want to say, 30 days after the phase is, 30 to 60 days after the phase is completed.
Okay.
Not after we complete the work at your house,
Nice.
after the whole phase is completed. And for some people, phase 1 is a year-long project. So that means that phase 1 from start date to end date is March of 2020. For phase 1, end date is March of 2020. So sometime next May or June, we'll be sending out those bills for people that got their service completed in phase 1. And you'll have 12 months to pay off how much we say you owe us. You can pay it in full. You ain't got to wait 12 months. You can pay it in full so we can help pay back that money and keep getting some more people in the future phases.
And that answered Jackie's question. Jackie McCoy asked the same question about the $1,000 over a period of time. So Tasha Nicole asked, are any of the services that are being offered to residents, the bottled water, the filters, etc., being offered to businesses serving the most vulnerable populations such as children and seniors?
So I just want to back up. Most businesses, when you look at McDonald's or ShopRite or some of the restaurants, they don't have a lead service line, right? They got bigger lines. Some of the larger buildings, most of the bigger child care centers, and again, those smaller child care centers, they're regulated by the Department of Education. They have to do independent water testing, right? Because they service children. Right, they service children mainly, to that age that's very vulnerable.
Right.
Their water system has to be modified and certified by an independent lab, not the city. We can't even go test them. Even if they ask us, they got to follow regulations by that. The seniors.
Yep, like nursing homes.
Nursing homes, they have a bigger type of pipe. So again, we're talking about single family or multiple family homes, 3 or 4 family homes. The pipe size is the size of a quarter or a 50-cent piece. For those bigger locations, you wouldn't even get the amount of volume, wouldn't even come through the pipe to feed a 20-unit building or 30-unit building or a large commercial or industrial building.
So Stephen asked, as a renter, should my landlord be liable to address the issue?
Your landlord should make sure he sign up for the lead service replacement program. Your landlord should be, you should ask him if he signed up to have the lead service line replaced in the city's program that they're offering now, while funding is available, because eventually he'll be on the hook. He's the only one that can sign up, though, so you should ask him.
And So again, people really want to know, when will the issue be resolved? Of course, there's no finite date, but do you want to just go back over, when you propose that, or what will be the telltale sign as to when people can stop using the filters or stop picking up water bottles?
So again, I'm gonna just speak before I let Tom come in a little bit, because we're working closely. This is a temporary measure as a precaution. We're expanding the sample pool. I think today we finally, Tom said we agreed on the protocol and the procedures.
Yep.
We don't want to rush, everybody, we don't want to rush nothing. With our study that we did for the Pequannock and the Wanacue system to find out the corrosion inhibitor wasn't working, we went above and beyond with the type of testing we do. The city doesn't rush things. We don't rush studies or testing, right? Because we want to make sure we're getting the proper data. And everybody always say, when. We want to be aggressive, but we want to do it the proper way to get the correct data. So when we implement a plan, we know what we're implementing.
Yeah, we do have evidence that the chemical is the zinc orthophosphate, the corrosion inhibitor, is being well dispersed throughout the distribution system. It's too early to really make a judgment call, so I wouldn't be in a good position to give you a date.
Right.
But and it's going to vary from area of the city to area of the city, and it may vary even from home to home, depending on how long the lead service line or the conditions of the home. So it'd be really premature to give you a finite date, but I can tell you that we're making very good progress. The chemical's being distributed, and as soon as we have really good information on, to make a basis for a decision, we will share that with all the users.
But I do want to iterate that, because you asked two questions on when is all this in. They could be talking about the bottled water or the zinc orthophosphate. So we do know that we did say 6 to 8 months for the really to get effective in the system, so we starting to see levels drop to the level that we needed throughout the whole city. Not a definitive date, but we're still on schedule with that, right? Because we're like 3 months in or 2 months in.
Yeah, and we are actually doing some loop testing. So we are at the Pequannock plant at the present time also simulating the effectiveness of this chemical in a laboratory setting. So we have 6 mocked up lead service lines sitting in an elaborate pipe loop where we're actually testing the chemical right now. So the results of that are also coming in now.
So I do notice that we only have about 2 minutes left. There's one important question. Actually, it's the last question, and it involves homeowners. So the question is, why are the homeowners and landlords responsible for paying for the lead service line replacement?
So the city of Newark doesn't own the lead service line. So the state and the city work closely together to get funding to take up 90% of the cost for the lead service line. We don't own it, and the city's not the mayor and the Newark delegation or the Exodus delegation, Senator Rice, Senator Ruiz, and some of those assembly people, along with the mayor in the front, should congratulate this mayor, was aggressively working with the state, Governor Murphy and them, to change legislation, to amend legislation so we can use public money on private property, right? And we got them to say, okay, you could do that up to 90%, right? Because the city doesn't own the lead service line. So we want to thank the governor and the mayor and our Exodus delegation. The mayor led that fight to get that legislation in place so we can use public money on private property so the homeowners wouldn't be impacted to pay up to $8,000 to $12,000 for a lead service line to be replaced.
So at this time, we're going to have just some closing remarks. And if you gentlemen wouldn't mind, or actually Kareem specifically, Director Dean, can you just go back over the important ways that the constituents can contact your office to find out how to get bottled water, where the distribution sites are? Is it on the website? All of those things, the phone number?
So I'm going to go over the distribution sites. You can get water at 110 William Street. That's our health department, Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30. You can also walk in and get your child tested if you're concerned for his lead level, right? Children lead level is free at 110 William Street between 8 and 4:30. Our great staff over there, you can pick up a filtered, you can pick up bottled water, and you can get your lead blood level checked for free for children under 17. The Vince Lombardi Centers of Hope, 201 Bloomfield Avenue, where you can get bottled water from 11 to 7. The Ballin Street Recreation Center, 916 South Orange Avenue. You can pick up bottled water from 11 to 7. The St. Peter's, also known as the Bo Porter Sports Complex at 378 Lyons Avenue, you can get bottled water from 11 to 7. You must bring your ID. You need to bring proof of residency, right? Where you live at, your government ID, light bill, phone bill, cable bill, tax bill. Yeah, you need forms of ID.
2 forms.
Right, to verify that you live there when we give it out. So those places are open. You can go on NewarkLeadServiceLine.com to sign up for the lead replacement, right? As well as see if you're eligible for bottled water. Click on the little icon, bottled water distribution. Because the bottled water distribution is not for everybody that you don't have a lead service line. I always see people come to those places when they live in these large buildings or these new complexes and they're mad. But you should be happy to find out that you don't have a lead service line, that you live in a new house or a complex that was recently renovated or recently built that don't have a lead service line.
I want to just add that the website and those features are very efficient and effective. I've used it a couple times today and yesterday for constituents that have called in. So kudos to the IT team, your team working together, because that really saves probably you guys on the phone calls.
Yes, or you can call us. Again, the phone call number is 973-733-6303. 973-733-6303. Or you can email us at water and sewer. That's one word, water and sewer, at ci.newark.nj.us. And as a team effort, we know the city can come together, and make things happen. We can move a lot of things in the city when we're working together, and we know our residents understand. We thank you for your support and your patience as we navigate through this, right, to give you a better understanding of what's going on. Thank you for being patient with us.
Absolutely. And thank you for tuning in, whether you were on watching us on Fios or Altice, whether you were over the phone or on Facebook Live. Again, my name is Andrea Mason, representing Newark People's Assembly. Please, I encourage you to participate, join our database. We send out the happenings of the city of Newark as we're trying to bridge the gap in communication between City Hall and you guys, the constituents in the city of Newark, or just those individuals that live, work, play, eat, or have a vested interest in Newark. There will be a fact sheet that'll circulate throughout the city. For whatever reason, if you do have more questions, Kareem did give out email addresses, but you can also email Newark People's Assembly at ci.newark.nj.us, and we will definitely forward that information to the respective and responsible individuals to answer those questions or comment on your concerns. So again, Newark People's Assembly at ci.newark.nj.us. And join us, just go to the city's website, click on community, and register here. Thank you very much, gentlemen, Mr. Adeem, Mr. Nadi, and Mr. Shottle. Appreciate your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I hope this was very informational for everyone about residents in the city and outside of the city, and outside of the city that may be watching. Thank you.
Have a good night.